And we are live, everyone. Hello, how's it going? If you can hear me, please let me know in the chat box. That would be amazingly helpful for me. I hope you're all having a really good day. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I had a busy day with my classes. Okay, we have some students ready already. That's amazing. So let me just get this chart ready. Okay. So, who do we have here? Please say hello in the chat. Please introduce yourself. Let everyone else know your name and where you come from. So we have Khan. How's it going? Thank you. It's very kind of you, Khan. And we have Kubra. Hello. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. That's really nice of you. Who else do we have here so far? Let me just check. You're from Turkey. That's awesome. I used to have a Turkish roommate, and his name was Barish, and he was a very nice gentleman. Okay. So let me just get set up for a second. Jack, how's it going? Max, another regular student. I hope it's going well. Suit. I'm not sure what that means, Max, but maybe it's Russian. But yeah, thank you for that. Okay, it looks like we have 10 students here. Uhi, hello. Good to see you again. Hope you're having a nice day in Korea. It's a nice weather today, right? Oh yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Max. How are you? Okay, well let's start today's lesson. Let me just get this ready. So it was a bit of a rush today. Okay, so in today's lesson, we're going to go over the past continuous for about 20 minutes, then have some practice activities using the past continuous forms, and lastly, we'll have a quick English Q&A. For the Q&A, you can ask me any question you want to related to English or British culture or even about me if you want to. So if you have some questions ready, that would be useful. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the past continuous tense is a tricky one for many students to use. I think it's because you have to think very logically when you're actually speaking or telling a story and using different tenses for different situations. So it's a tricky one for students. In this lesson, we're going to cover two different meanings, which are very common for intermediate level learners. And of course, we're going to look at the form, which basically means the grammar of the tense and how we can use it accurately when we're speaking. Okay, we have another student here. We have Adi Khan. Good morning. Thank you. It's good afternoon here, but anyway, good morning for you. Okay, so let's start with the first section. So there are two meanings that we're going to cover today. The first meaning is about using the past continuous for an ongoing action in the past. This is the most common usage and probably the easiest one for us to learn and to use. Then we're going to look at another really common usage of the past continuous, which is to talk about an action that was interrupted in the past. The second one is a little bit more tricky because it has a bit more complex grammar structures, but it's very common, so it's good for us to study and practice number two. Oh, hello Heidi from Austria again. Good to see you again. Happy that you came back here. All right, so let's get started. So meaning number one, like I said, we use it to talk about an ongoing action or an ongoing event that started in the past. When we say ongoing, we mean that it's not something that began and finished. It's something that has continuously happened. But of course, we're talking about the past here. So it's a little bit tricky for us to imagine this, but in the present, you have the ing form of a verb, like for example, I am teaching. That's quite easy. It's I'm teaching you now and it's ongoing. I can say maybe tomorrow about today, I was teaching. So this is a past action, ongoing action in the past. This grammar is often used to tell a story, and we use it to describe an action or an event at a specific time in that story, especially actions that were not finished, maybe ongoing at that time. Sophie from France, hello. Good to see you. I love France. Again, guys, if you're new to this chat, please introduce yourself and let everyone else know where you come from. So far, we have people from Turkey, Austria, Korea, maybe Vietnam, and France. So this is amazing. Okay, so let's move on. So, for example, of meaning number one, we can say I was watching TV at 8 o'clock. So if we look at this example, I want to ask you some questions to go with it. So, did I start watching TV before 8 o'clock in this example? Yes or no? Well, the answer is yes. For this example, yes, I was watching TV before 8 o'clock. Number two, was I still watching TV after 8 o'clock? Again, yes, I was. An ongoing action. So, was the action in progress at 8 o'clock? Yes, it was. So this is all about an ongoing action. It started before, it carried on after. So it was ongoing at a specific time in the past. This is where we use the past continuous. Okay, we have a couple more students here. We have Laureen from Turkey. That's amazing. Hello. And we have Adil again from India. So good to see you. Yeah, so I hope these questions help clarify. So again, ongoing action in the past means that it was started before that specific time, it was happening during that specific time, and it was happening after. So I was watching TV at 8 o'clock. Zakia from Indonesia, welcome. Welcome to this lesson. Okay, so how do we make this past continuous grammar using grammar? How do we make these sentences? Well, this is the best way. In an affirmative sentence, which means in a positive sentence, it's very simple. It's just the subject plus be verb plus verb ing. But of course, remember, this is a past action, so we have to use the past forms of be verb, which are was or were. Verb ing can also be called the present participle. When a verb becomes an ongoing verb, like in present continuous or past continuous, then we can call it the present participle. Okay, we have so many students here. This is fantastic. Hello, everyone. If you're new, as always, please introduce yourself, your name and your country. Okay, let's move on. So here are some examples. I was reading last night. So I was, of course, the subject is I, so the following be verb takes the was form. Read, ing, reading last night. They, the subject is they, so the be verb takes a different form, which is were, not they was, but they were. And of course, play becomes playing. So they were playing at 9 a.m. Okay, that's the positive, the affirmative sentences. Now let's take a look at the negative sentences. So how can we make a past continuous sentence into a negative? If you have any ideas, write them in the chat. Maybe you can write some examples in the chat and I'll check them. So how can we make a negative past continuous? And I'll check who's here. 11 students currently. This is great. Yeah, so Cuba wrote, I was not reading maybe a book last night. Yes, try to use the article Cuba, so a book. Max says, I wasn't playing at 9 p.m. That's great. And you says, sorry, I'm late. No problem. You is really good to be here. You and anyone else who's new to this chat, in this lesson, we're covering the past continuous forms. Okay, so yes, Zach, Kubra and Max had some good examples of the negative form of the past continuous. Let's have a look. So we make the past continuous like this. Subject plus be verb again, followed by not, again, the verb ing. Surong, hello. I hope I pronounced your name right. Good to see you. Okay, so for example, I was not reading at 10 a.m., which is really similar to Max's example. That's awesome. Then we have number 2, they were not studying at all. These are some examples of the negative form of the past continuous. However, when we are speaking, do we speak it like in these examples? So when I'm speaking, do I say, I was not reading at 10 a.m.? They were not studying at all. Do we speak it like that? Leave your answer, yes or no, in the comments. Yes, Max says no, and that's true. We don't speak it like. Can you see we don't speak it like in these examples because this is the written form. When we're writing academically, we can write it like this, but we don't speak it. When we speak it, we use a contraction. So what happens, for example, number 1, was and not, they get put together and it becomes wasn't. I wasn't reading at 10 a.m. Number 2, were and not get put together, they get contracted and they become they weren't studying at all. So remember, when you are speaking and using the negative sentences of the past continuous, always try to use contractions. So one more time. I wasn't, you wasn't, they weren't, we weren't. It's always like that when we are speaking. Pronunciation is really, really helpful to make you sound much more natural when you're speaking English, and using contractions is one element of pronunciation that's really useful for you to study. Oh, okay, we have Surong, who says he's from Vietnam, and then Miss Yu introduced him. I think Miss Yu has introduced many students to this live lesson, so really grateful, and that's just amazing. So really, I'm really thankful you. Okay, let's move on then. So how do we make this a question? So how can you write a question using the past continuous? Write some examples in the chat box, please. Zakia, that's a really good example. We were not watching a comedy last night when my mother came. Good. That's a good example of the negative form. How can you make that a question? Yep, okay, so we have some examples here. So Max said, were they playing at 9 p.m.? That's a good question. And Heidi says, were they watching TV last night? Yes, good. So this is how we make questions. We start off with the be verb, was, were, and then we put the subject and verb ing. So for example, was she reading last night? Were they doing their homework? We have some more examples. Win says, what were you doing last night when I called you? That's a really good example. Okay, so that's meaning number 1 finished. Meaning number 1 is quite simple. Meaning number 2 is something I want to focus more on in this lesson because it's more at an intermediate lesson. And I think if you are watching this live lesson and you can understand me, then you must be at least intermediate, maybe even advanced. So, meaning number 2. We use the past continuous to talk about an unfinished action that was interrupted by another action. This is a really, really common meaning of the past continuous, and it's complicated because it involves 2 actions. So, for example, I was having a beautiful dream when the alarm clock rang. This is actually true. This morning, my alarm clock totally interrupted my dream and I was very upset. So again, one more time. I was having a beautiful dream when the alarm clock rang. So this sentence has two actions. We have was having a dream, and we have alarm clock rang. Which action do you think came first here? Which is the first action? Was having or rang? Yes, Heidi, you're right. Was having is the first action, and then alarm clock rang is the second action here. And it's really important to know this because this is how we structure a past continuous sentence that was interrupted. We start off with past continuous, which is the first action, and then the second action uses a different grammatical form, which is past simple. Rang is the past simple form of ring. Okay, it's just I have a few comments to reply to, so I will carry on this lesson in 1 minute. So we have Winnair. You said, what were you doing last night when I called you? That's a really good question. A really good example of the present continuous in a question. Adil Khan gave a negative sentence. I wasn't singing last night. Zakia said, were you studying English last night? Yes, these are all really good examples. And Kubra said, were you singing last night when I came home? That's a good example of a question using meaning number 2. So that's well done. Zakia said, was your father listening to music when he was watching the news? Good. Okay, so action 1 and action 2 are important here. So we have to remember which actions came first and which ones followed. Also, in this example, I was having a beautiful dream when the alarm clock rang. Let's go through some questions to see if we can really understand it. So firstly, did I start dreaming before the alarm clock rang? Yes or no? Yes, I did. Right, Heidi? I did. That was the first action. Was my dream ongoing when my alarm clock rang? I mean, was that dream in action? Was it happening when my alarm clock rang? Again, yes. Right, Heidi. Yes, it was. And then, did I stop dreaming? Yes, I did. So this is what we call an interruption. Something you are doing, something else happens, and it interrupts it. So for this grammar, the present continuous is used to express an interrupted action. I was having a beautiful dream. It was great. Then my alarm clock rang and it interrupted my dream. I was really sad. Okay, so how do we make these sentences then? So we make the past continuous for interrupted actions just like this. We have to use words like when and while. So for example, we're using the word when. We use the past continuous in the first chunk, the first clause, then the word when, and then after that becomes the past simple. So for example, I was cooking. This is past continuous. This is the first action. When my phone rang, which is the past simple. So when is actually very closely linked to the past simple. I was cooking when my phone rang. Again, here, which is the first action? It is was cooking, and the second action is my phone rang. Did my phone interrupt me? Did it interrupt my cooking? Yeah, it did. This was an interruption. I was cooking and my phone rang, so I had to stop cooking. It interrupted me. Okay, thank you, Zakia and Max and Laureen to keep responding. Keep writing more comments. Thank you very much. Okay, now for meaning number 2. We make the past continuous for interrupted actions like this. This is with while. So while plus the past continuous, comma, past simple. So for example, while I was cooking, my phone rang. While is linked with the past continuous, and when is linked with the present simple. But you never use while and when in the same sentence. So you don't say, while I was cooking when my phone rang. No, you just choose one. So you can use both. They both may have the same meaning, but the way you use it is differently. So while is linked with the present continuous, and when is linked with the past simple. So for example, while I was cooking, my phone rang. Again, while I was cooking is the first action, and my phone rang is the second action. I can, if I wanted to, change it over. So I could say, my phone rang while I was cooking. Same idea. While is linked to the present continuous. If I say, my phone rang while I was cooking, in that case, we don't need to use a comma when you're writing it. You only use a comma when while is at the front. Win asked the question. Win there, I'll try to answer your questions. If you have any questions as we're going along, please leave them in the comments and I'll take some time to answer them. So Win says, I took a bath while you were going to the party. It's not wrong. In this case, you're talking about two actions that are happening at the same time. That is okay. That's not an interruption. So maybe you could say, Oh, no, actually, sorry, I take that back. I took a bath while you were going to the party. Yes, you're totally right. That is correct. So while you were going to the party is the first action. That's ongoing, maybe in the car or on a bus. And during that time, you took a bath. So you're right. Two actions. While I was going was first, took a bath was second. While I was walking, I fell suddenly. Yes, that's a great example, Laureen. Max says, while I was sleeping, someone came into the room and switched on the light. Perfect example. That sounds terrible. I would hate that. I hate it when people turn the light on when I'm sleeping. Okay. Let's do a quick comparison just to try to make it a little bit more clear for you. So, if we have these two examples. I was cooking when my phone rang, and I cooked when my phone rang. Now these, of course, have different grammar structures, right? Because I was cooking is past continuous, when my phone rang is past simple. Second one is I cooked, past simple, when my phone rang, past simple. So they have different meanings as well. So what we can think of it is like this. Number one is I was cooking first. Then my phone rang second and interrupted my action. Whereas number two is more like this. My phone rang first, and as it rang, when I was talking, I started cooking. So I cooked when my phone rang. My phone rang, I started cooking. So you can see that it's really important to put the correct tense here because it actually changes the meaning quite a lot. Okay. So, before I move on, do you have any questions on the past continuous for interrupted actions or an ongoing action in the past? We will go through some practice, but before I go to practice, I want to see if you have any questions. So Zakia said, while she was printing her paper, her father called. That's a really good example. However, don't use capital letters, Zakia, for she and her. Pronouns like she and her don't use capital letters. So small letters for those ones. So Heidi has a good question. She says, are there some signal words for the meaning NR1 of past continuous tenses? What do you mean NR1? I'm not sure what that means, Heidi. Sorry. Can you let me know? So Max has a good question. He said, can I explain again? I was cooking and I cooked. So yes, if you look at the examples on the slide, example 1, example 2, what these examples show is that it's really important to use the correct tense to show actions, the order of actions. For example, which action came first, which action came second. Don't worry, Max. Don't be sorry. So in number 1, it says, I was cooking when my phone rang. So what this sentence shows was that cooking was the first thing that was happened. Second thing that happened was my phone rang, but it was interrupted. So it shows an interruption. But the first action was cooking, second action, phone rang. In sentence number 2, I cooked when my phone rang, actually has a different order. So my phone rang first, then next I cooked. So it's a bit different. So what the tenses do is show the order of actions. Okay, so I hope that helped. Laureen says, for second, can we say I had cooked when my phone rang? Yes, you can. That's a different tense than this lesson. So I had cooked is the past perfect. And that means that I had cooked when my phone rang means I had finished cooking. I had finished cooking when my phone rang. So you're right, you can say that. But it has different meaning. Was cooking means I didn't finish cooking. Had cooked means I finished cooking. You says, how about two actions at the same time? Yeah, while I was cooking, my husband was watching TV. Yes, it can be like that if it's not an interrupted action. You can use it for two actions happening at the same time. However, that's a little bit rarer. You more often use this when you talk about interruptions. Maybe people who use, situations where you use for two actions at the same time might be more like storytelling. So, for example, I could tell a story about my students today. So, I was walking into my when I walked into my classroom, my students were studying. Stella was studying English. Julian was studying maths, and so on. So it's all about making a scene and actions happening at the same time. Okay, Heidi says, regarding to the first part of your expression, meaning NR2, the signal has words well. Are there any more? Oh, right. Yes, that's a good question. Yes, there's one more, but it's less common, and it is as. So Heidi, you can say, as I was cooking, my phone rang. So you can replace as with while, and it has the same function. However, that's not as common. Much more common to use while. But you can use as. Maybe in more formal writing, people say as more so. Okay, yeah, so Max says thank you, no problem. Laureen says thank you, that's my pleasure. Zaki says sentence number is more difficult to be understood. Number 2, yes, you're right. More difficult and less common. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Let's have a quick practice. So here are some practice questions. So I'm going to give you some sentences with some gaps, and I want you to fill in the gaps with the present continuous or the present simple, depending on the situation. Which action came first, which action came second. Okay, so I should say number 1, I'm sorry. So for number 1, we have Robin. Robin, something home when he a little puppy on the street. Mardine. Oh, Mardine says hello. Mardine is one of my first online students. About a year ago, he followed me on Twitter, so he's a very good student of mine. I'm very happy Mardine's here. Welcome. Yep, so for this case, we can say Robin was walking home when he saw a little puppy. Okay, little puppy on the street. So in this case, of course, Robin was walking is the first action. That action got interrupted because he saw a puppy. So when he saw a puppy. Okay, next one. This is a little bit more tricky. So while I to work, to turn my TV off. Adil, I would love to try and do this every day, but I have to teach many students in my university, so I don't have time. But I will try to do it at least once or sometimes twice a week. Okay, Heidi and Kriti got a good answer. So yes, while I was walking to work, I remembered that I forgot to turn my TV off. Yes. So again, while I was walking is the first action. That action got interrupted. So by myself remembering, so I say I remembered that I forgot. You can use two past verbs if you want to. Remembered that I forgot. Okay, number 3. On her birthday last year, Sarah to work when she a bad accident. Okay, Heidi says was driving and had, and Win says drove and was having. You says was driving and had. Max says was driving and have. And yeah, it was like this. So on her birthday last year, Sarah was driving to work when she had a bad accident. So again, remember, actions that came first and second. So was driving is first. She was driving her car. Then an accident happened. So that was the second action. First action uses past continuous. Second action uses past simple. Okay, number 4. While they were... Oh, oops, I told you the answer. While they, a film, they, a loud bang from outside. Okay, so we have a few answers. Heidi says we're watching and heard. Win says we're watching, heard. You says we're watching and heard. Yes, you're all correct. So while they were watching a film, they heard a loud bang from outside. Of course, with the subject they, the be verb conjugates to were. So while they were watching a film, they heard a loud bang from outside. And last one we'll look at for practice, and then we're going to look at some pronunciation and intonation when using these sentences. So number 5, yesterday the bus to university when we have classes. Oh no. And I gave you the answer, the last one. I just realized I made a mistake. It should be do not. Thank you, Zakia, for answering. Okay, so the answer is yesterday we were taking the bus to university when we realized that we didn't have classes. Right, remember the negative form did and not usually contract when speaking, and it becomes didn't. We didn't have classes. Okay, good. Now let's go back to this example, number 4, and I want us to focus on pronunciation. So while we are speaking this, how is our intonation? Is our intonation up, or is our intonation down, or is our intonation flat? Intonation's tricky for a lot of students, especially students who live in Asia, because of the differences between Asian languages and English. But I hope I will help you with intonation quickly. Okay, so I'll read this sentence. I want you to listen. There'll be two different intonations, two types. So what are they? Before the comma. Okay, so ready? While they were watching a film, they heard a loud bang from outside. So does the intonation go down twice, up twice, down once, up once? Well, I'll say it one more time. While they were watching a film, they heard a loud bang from outside. Twice up. No, I'm sorry, Max. I'll say it one more time. While they were watching a film, they heard a loud bang from outside. Okay, so the intonation when we use the past continuous for an interrupted action actually goes down twice. So it goes down twice before the comma and then before the last section. Sorry, pardon me. So, for example, you can wash my hands. While we were watching a film, they heard a loud bang from outside. While they were watching a film, they heard a loud bang from outside. It goes down twice. Another example. Let's find the when example. Same for this example too. It goes down twice. Robin was walking home. Intonation down. Robin was walking home when he saw a puppy on the street. Robin was walking home when he saw a puppy on the street. So remember, for the interrupted version of the past continuous, there are two clauses. While clause or when clause. At the end of each clause, it goes down. Robin was walking home when he saw a puppy on the street. How about this one? While they were watching a film, they heard a loud bang outside. Down twice, right? Okay, so what we will do now is have a Q&A session for about 20 minutes. So if you have any questions about English, now is a good time to ask me. I'll try my best to answer them. Yeah, Zakia says she cannot distinguish the intonation, and that's a very common problem. You have to really listen closely to the fall or the rise. So one more time. While I was walking home, I saw a puppy on the street. Down. While I was walking home, I saw a puppy on the street. Okay, so guys, do you have any questions? I am happy to answer any questions you have on English for the next 20 or 30 minutes. Anyway, I want to say thank you as well before we move on. Thank you for participating and joining me in this live. It's really fantastic to have you here. Adil says, I'm looking very nice. Oh, thank you. I'm sure you are looking very nice as well. Zakia says, I think it sounds flat. I don't know where the words must be stressed. So one more time. While I was walking home is down. While I was walking home, I saw a puppy on the street. So those are the stress words. Walking home And intonation down. I saw a puppy on the street. Again, down. Try to mimic me and copy how I say it. Max has a good question. Could you please tell us which sentence is correct? Tell me why did you do that, or tell me why you did that. Well, both are correct. The first one, why did you do that, has a lot more emphasis on the action. Why did you do that is a lot more surprising. Whereas why you did that? Tell me why you did that. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. Tell me why you did that is not correct. Tell me why did you do that is better. So tell me why did you do that. Maybe your mum is angry at you. Tell me why did you do that. Tell me why you did that. No, I'm wrong. Sorry, I'm wrong again. They're both correct. I'm sorry, Max. I'm confusing you. Tell me why did you do that is a lot more emphasis. It's a lot more stronger. Why did you do that is kind of surprising. And tell me why you did that is just more of a general question. Less surprising. But they are both correct. I'm sorry, I was a little bit confused. They are both correct. It's a good question. Thank you, Max. Thank you. As how to learn intonation, is there any strategies? Yes, there is. I recommend you watching American TV shows, especially a TV show like Friends, because they use a lot of strong intonations when they're speaking to make it sound a lot more funny. So definitely watch them and try to copy the way they speak. So definitely copy their rises and their falls. Apart from that, you can go onto Google and find some websites which give you lots of examples of rise in intonation and fall in intonation. However, in my opinion, the best way you could learn is to listen and copy. But you have to hear it first. You have to pay close attention, rise or fall or flat. There are some rules. So, for example, if you are going to finish your sentence, the intonation usually falls, right? If you want to kind of carry on and give more ideas, it can go up. But those rules are quite complicated and not always followed by native speakers. So intonation is very tricky to learn. But I recommend you follow a TV show and copy and shadow and try to listen carefully for the intonation and follow up or down. I hope that helps. Any more questions, anyone? So Mardine says thank you, but he has to go to work. That's no problem. I would like to do this at a later time. I think that would be better for most students, but I can't. I also have to work later. So this is the only time I have right now to do a live lesson. But anyway, have a nice day, Mardine. Win, that's a good question, Win. Win says, there aren't any native English speakers in my environment, so how can I improve my English skills, especially speaking? That's really tricky because, of course, a really good way to improve your speaking is to speak. So what I would recommend is firstly to listen as much as you can to as many English YouTube videos or English TV shows or songs as possible. Then, with a group of friends or online, find some people who can speak English, not native, but just people in your town who are good, and definitely start a speaking club. And try to go there for 1 or 2 hours a week and just speak in English as much as you can to those people. I know it's not a native speaker, so it might not feel as natural, but that would be a really good way to do that. There are other websites you can use where you can have one-on-one lessons with native teachers. There's a good website called italki.com. I'll put that in the description. It's called italki.com. And there you can find native English teachers to just chat to online. It's not free. That's the only problem with that. But it's a good thing to try. I hope that helps. It's a very difficult situation. I appreciate that you really want to improve your English. But yes, I hope you can do that. And Adil says, I'm singing songs like Ed Sheeran. Awesome. Max has one more question. We are waiting for or waiting on our boss's decision. Both are okay, actually, Maxime. I'm waiting for someone, or waiting for someone to tell me something is very common, but you do often wait on a decision. So with the word decision, it can be on. It can be both. But for example, like if you change your sentence, Max, to we are waiting for our friend, then you don't say I'm waiting on my friend. That's not right. But because of the word decision, it can be on. I hope that helps, Max. Sophie says, what are the differences between I've been working and I was working? Well, that's a good question. So I've been working is the present continuous, which means that an action started in the past but continues till now. And the next one was I was working, which is all about the past continuous. So an ongoing action that was in the past, but now you don't do it. So the first one is a present continuous, which means it's still happening. It happened in the past, started in the past and continues till now. I hope that helps, Sophie. That's a common problem. The present perfect and present perfect continuous are quite challenging. What else do we have? Zakia says, is there a difference between therein and thereby? Can you tell me more? Can you write me a sentence with those words, and then I can help you better, Zakia? Mardine says, have a nice evening. Thank you. Win says, thank you. I'll join it. Yes, I really hope you do. And definitely think about joining a speaking club in your town as well. Zakia says, what's the difference between strive and thrive? Well, so for example, in a sentence, I'm striving to become a good English teacher means that I'm trying really hard to become a good English teacher. Whereas I thrive is more like I'm doing really well. So I'm thriving at being an English teacher means I'm doing really well at being an English teacher. So strive is to want to do something, and thrive is to do something very well. Okay, Win says, she had made me ashamed of my clothes and she humiliated me in front of all my friends. What's the difference between ashamed and humiliated? Of course, they are very similar. To feel shame means to feel bad about yourself because of some reason. And to feel humiliated is more embarrassed. It's a bit lighter. Shame is a lot stronger, to feel very bad about inside, where humiliated maybe just for a short time. So I was humiliated because I made a mistake. Whereas I was ashamed of myself is a lot stronger, it's a lot deeper, and maybe because, I don't know, maybe, yeah. It means you have a much deeper problem and you feel really bad about yourself. But they're very similar, you're right. Maxime says, thank you. So that's my pleasure, Max. Please, any questions you can ask me anytime. Okay, any more questions? Anyway, I hope you're all having a really nice day. How's the weather in your country right now? Where I live in South Korea, the weather is really blue. The sky is really blue, and the weather is beautiful. A little bit cold. It's getting cold. Winter is coming, but it's really nice. Hello, Maria. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any questions? Looks like we have about 16 people in this live, so I'm really happy about that. Max says it's snowing outside. Wow. Already? It's too early to snow. Maybe in Russia it's a lot colder. Okay, Heidi is a good question. Can you explain the correct use of gerund and infinitive? I can. That's a really hard question to just answer because it depends a lot on the verb type. I'll think of some examples, some common mistakes. So with the verb enjoy, Heidi, then enjoy is followed by gerund. So I enjoy eating Mexican food, for example, not I enjoy to eat Mexican food. I'll get a book, lots of examples. One second. But it basically, Heidi, it depends on the verb. If the verb takes an infinitive or gerund form. I can't do it right now because it's a hard question to answer right away, but I'll do a lesson on that because that's really useful for students to know which form to take after a verb. It's a really good question. Thank you for answering. It's sunny in Myanmar. Great. Sophia says it's sunny in southern France. Wow, you live in southern France. That's a beautiful place. I've been to not South France, but I've been to Beirut. I went surfing in Beirut once. That was really a beautiful place. Myanmar is sunny. You're lucky. Zakia has a good question. What's the difference between insulted and abused? Okay, good question. Insulted, again, it's about how strong. So abused is very, very strong, and insulted is it's bad, but not super strong. Insulted could be that someone offended me, so I said something to you like, oh, you look ugly today, or you're stupid. That could be insulting. Abused is often physical, so like I punched you, so I got punched, so I was abused. But abuse can also be verbal if it is happening for a very long time and very, very serious. We call that verbal abuse. That is similar to insulted, but insulted is lighter form. Okay, Zakia said, how to memorize phrasal verbs. I always memorize them, but I forget them the next day. Yeah, I mean, memorizing vocabulary like phrasal verbs is really, really difficult because there are so many of them. And phrasal verbs are particularly hard because there are many that have very similar forms and have many meanings. So what I recommend, Zakia, for my students when they learn vocabulary is to always write down a sentence using the words that is connected to your life. So for example, if you want to use the phrasal verb bump into as to meet someone on the street, then you can write a sentence in your diary. I bumped into my friend last night. It was great. If you can use it and connect it to your life, I think that makes it much, much easier to remember. So that's what I recommend, is trying to relate it to your life. And of course, write it down so you can go back and check later. Thank you, Heidi. It's very kind of you. I will. Yes, there's lots of good knowledge in books. Some of them are confusing, but I'll do a lesson maybe next week. I'll see if I can plan a good lesson next week on gerunds and to infinitives. Max says, check the weather in Blagoveshchenif. I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry. I'll be very surprised. Oh gosh, it must be really cold there. Zakia says, how to okay, I already asked that question. Okay, so Winne says, he went down the stairs and he went downstairs. Are these sentences the same? Yes, essentially, they are the same. However, the second one, he went downstairs, is more common than down the stairs. I think if someone said he went down the stairs, you're being very specific and maybe even correcting someone who got it wrong. So maybe, oh, he went up the stairs? No, he went down the stairs. Whereas just he went downstairs is very, very natural and common. So he went downstairs, he left. Max says, what kind of music do I like? I like rock music and folk music. Yeah, how about you? What music do you like? And I have a question for everyone here. Are you currently in university, or are you working? If you're working, what's your job? If you're in university, what are you studying? That'd be really useful and really interesting to find out. Winner says she's been watching my phrasal verbs on Instagram and there are so many meanings. Yes, I'm sorry, English is a really big language and has lots of phrasal verbs which have idiomatic meanings. It's very challenging. And I actually I feel really sorry that there are so many. I wish there were not, but English is a very big language and lots of vocabulary. But thank you for watching my videos. I hope they help you. Heidi says, is there a big difference between also, to, and as well? I use as well mostly. No, there's not a big difference. No, not really. The reason you should use them all is because when you are speaking, or especially if when you're writing, you want to use some variety. You don't want to say the same thing over and over again, because especially in writing, that becomes very boring. So you want to use synonyms as much as possible. So also, to, and as well are all synonyms. Another difference, I think as well is more common in spoken or casual English, whereas also and to will be seen in casual English, but also formal and written English. So you says, I have much experience and I have many experiences. Do they have the different meanings? Yes, I say they do have slightly different meanings because of the context that they will be used in. So I have much experience, or I have a lot of experience, will be used when you're talking about maybe your experience in work. So your boss might ask you, like, have you had experience in this job? I'm like, oh yes, I have much experience, or I have a lot of experience doing this job. Whereas I have many experiences is more about individual experiences, maybe like traveling, watching lots of movies, going to lots of places, eating lots of food. These can be all experiences. So they're different. The experience there has a different meaning than the first example. So in that case, I have many experiences as a countable noun. So slightly different meaning. That's a really good question. I hope that helped you. Max says, I like it when someone is able to sing with his soul. Yes. Yeah, me too. There's a really good singer, Sam Smith from the UK, and I like the way he sings. He definitely has a very soulful voice. Zaki says, can I learn IELTS individually without joining any courses? You can, of course. You can do anything individually. It would be easier if you join a course because you'll have a good teacher, I hope. What you can do is look online and find out some good information about how to pass the test. For example, in the writing test 1 for the IELTS exam, you have to describe a chart or a graph or a diagram. So you can teach yourself how to describe that, what vocabulary you need to do that. It will be more difficult without the course, but you can do it. But you have to do a lot of research by yourself. That's really important because it's a test and they want to test your English and they have their own standards and their own expectations. So that would be really helpful for you. Also, I have this book here. It's called Common Mistakes for IELTS Advanced. This is what I help my students with in my university. So you can find books like this online or in shops. It might be very helpful for you. Maria says, is the word nevertheless used by speaking native speakers or not? If not, what's the alternative? Yes, we do use it. In writing. More so in writing. It's very a written English style of word. But yes, we certainly do use that word. An alternative might be regardless. Or just but, but, when you're speaking. Max says, is it common when people in the UK say, I am gonna ask you a question? Or do natives say, I'm going to ask? So, yes, British people, American people, Australian people, when we are speaking, we say gonna. I'm gonna ask you a question. But when we are writing, we say going to. So what this is a pronunciation feature. It's called, to, it takes the weak form, so it's more like ta. I guess connected. So like I'm gonna ask you a question. It's a connection. Going to, gonna. But yes, we definitely speak like that for sure. Zakia says that she's learning IELTS now, but it's too hard and she gets bored when studying. Yeah, it's a very difficult test, that's for sure. Especially if you want to get a grade 7.5 to enter a university in the UK or America, then it's really challenging. Uhi says she's working at a pharmacy. You're a pharmacist. That's amazing. That's a really awesome job. Ikran says, how are you? I'm great, thank you, Ikran. How are you doing today? Oops. Okay, so I'll answer a few more questions and then I will get home because I'm a little bit hungry and it's dinner time for me. So do you have any last questions? Or do you have any recommendations for lessons in the future? So Heidi had a recommendation about doing gerunds and to infinitive. I think that's a very good idea. If you have any other recommendations, please let me know and I'll consider doing them in the next few lessons. Thank you, Adil. Okay, last chance. Any questions or I will get some dinner. Okay, good ones. Zakia asked how to pronounce these words. Okay. Okay, so the first one is sanctuaries. Sanctuaries. Second one is partridge. Partridge. Then we have Joey. Joey. And the last one is, I don't know what this word means, actually. The last one. Is it deviver? I don't know the last one. Oh my god. Yeah, that's a new word for me. That's very rare. I've never seen that. Okay, so some questions coming in. Good. So Heidi says the present perfect simple progressive could be a good topic. I agree. That's a very good topic. I'll put that onto my list. Oh, Max, yes, picture can be a verb, and it means imagine. So I am picturing Russia right now, or I can't picture Russia like this. It's good. It's also a verb. That's a good one to good find. Common idioms, yes, I can do a lesson on common idioms for sure. Thank you, Zakia. Good idea. When will I come again? I will be doing a live lesson every Wednesday at this time, so 7 a.m. GMT. I will try to do 2 per week, but maybe this Friday, but I'm not sure. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and then if I can do it on Friday, I will put an announcement, but I need to check my work schedule first. But I'll definitely do every Wednesday, for sure. Thanks, Max. Okay, so I think I am going to have some dinner now. Firstly, everyone, so thank you very much for joining me in this live and taking this lesson with me. I'll come back, like I said, on Wednesday for sure, maybe on Friday. So thank you very much, everyone. 2 classes would be nice. Yes. If I have time, I will definitely do that. Thank you, Heidi. It's very, very kind of you. Adil, thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, quick question. Zacchaeus, thank you. Zacchaeus said, what does it mean of dwindle away? Dwindle away means to get less and less slowly. So maybe something like, my money is dwindling away. It means I'm less and less slowly. Thank you, Uhi. Have a nice day. Thank you, Winner. I hope I pronounced your name right. Okay. Okay, that's all. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.